The decision that would change everything came at exactly 3:47 a.m. in that dimly lit Zagreb mansion. Magnus Carlsen looked directly into Garry Kasparov's calculating eyes and spoke the words that would shatter his friendship with Anish Giri forever. "I accept your offer." But what Magnus discovered about Kasparov's recruitment centers for young players would make him question whether he had just saved his career or sold his soul. You see, what happened next would reveal the true cost of power in the chess world. Because while Magnus was being initiated into Kasparov's inner circle, Anish was about to uncover something about the London Chess Academy that would make both of them realize they were fighting a war where innocence itself was the ultimate casualty. Anish stared at Magnus in disbelief. "You can't be serious. After everything we've discovered, you're going to join him?" Magnus avoided eye contact with his former ally. "Anish, we've seen what happens to people who oppose this network. At least from the inside, I might be able to limit the damage." "Limit the damage?" Anish's voice was filled with betrayal and disgust. "Magnus, you're talking about helping him manipulate children, young chess players who trust you." Kasparov observed the confrontation with apparent satisfaction. "Mr. Giri, your moral indignation is admirable but ultimately naive. The chess world has changed. Those who adapt will thrive. Those who don't will be forgotten." Magnus forced himself to maintain composure while his conscience screamed in protest. "Anish, I'm making the practical choice. Together, we could have influenced this network from within. Alone, you'll accomplish nothing." "Then I'll accomplish nothing with my integrity intact," Anish replied, backing toward the door. "Magnus, when you're lying awake at night wondering what you've become, remember that you had a choice." As Anish left the mansion, Magnus felt a part of himself die. But Kasparov was already moving forward, activating monitors that displayed recruitment facilities around the world. "Excellent decision, Magnus," Kasparov said, his tone shifting to business-like efficiency. "Now let me show you how we shape the future of chess through our younger participants." The monitors revealed a global network of chess academies, training centers, and residential facilities that appeared legitimate from the outside. But as Kasparov provided more details, Magnus began to understand the psychological sophistication of the recruitment process. "Our most promising facility is the London Chess Academy," Kasparov explained, pulling up detailed records. "We've been operating there for 12 years, developing methods for identifying and cultivating young players with exceptional potential." Magnus studied the documentation, trying to maintain his facade of cooperation while internally horrified by what he was learning. The London Academy wasn't just training chess players, it was systematically reshaping their personalities and moral frameworks. "What exactly happens at these facilities?" Magnus asked, dreading the answer. "Intensive development," Kasparov replied. "Chess training certainly, but also psychological conditioning, strategic thinking enhancement, and most importantly, loyalty cultivation. By the time students graduate, they're completely committed to our vision of optimized human intellectual development." The recruitment process began with identifying chess prodigies as young as 8 years old. Parents were approached with offers of elite training, full scholarships, and promises of professional chess careers. What they weren't told was that their children would be subjected to sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques. "The beautiful part of working with young minds," Kasparov continued, "is their plasticity. Adults have established moral frameworks that resist modification. Children, properly guided, can be shaped into ideal agents of influence." Magnus felt sick as he studied video footage from the London Academy. Young players who had entered as enthusiastic children were being transformed into calculating individuals who viewed human relationships as strategic assets to be exploited. "How many facilities like this do you operate?" Magnus asked. 17. Active centers across 6 continents, Kasparov replied proudly. "We process approximately 200 young players annually, with a 90% retention rate among those who complete our full program. The statistics were devastating. Hundreds of children were being systematically indoctrinated into Kasparov's network, their natural development warped to serve his vision of intellectual optimization. "What happens to those who don't complete the program?" Magnus asked. Kasparov's expression became colder. "They're returned to conventional chess training with modified memories of their experience. Simple psychological adjustment ensures they remember only positive aspects of their time with us." Magnus realized that even the children who escaped were victims. Their memories altered to prevent them from revealing the true nature of Kasparov's operations. "Magnus, I want you to visit the London Academy personally," Kasparov continued. "Your presence there will be incredibly valuable for recruiting purposes. Young players dream of meeting world champions." The assignment filled Magnus with dread, but he understood that refusing would expose his true intentions. "When do you want me to go?" "Next week. There's a special graduation ceremony for our most successful students, 15 young players who have completed our comprehensive development program and are ready for placement in strategic positions worldwide." Magnus studied the profiles of the graduating students, seeing children whose natural curiosity and joy had been replaced by cold calculation and strategic thinking. They were intellectual prodigies, but something fundamentally human had been extracted from their personalities. Meanwhile, Anish was conducting his own investigation into the London Academy from the outside. Using contacts from his intelligence network, he had obtained disturbing information about the facility's operations and the psychological techniques being employed on young students. The evidence Anish gathered painted a picture of systematic child abuse disguised as elite chess education. Students were subjected to isolation techniques, competitive pressures designed to eliminate empathy, and reward systems that reinforced manipulative behavior. But most disturbing was Anish's discovery that several former students of the London Academy had gone on to positions of influence in business, academia, and government. Young adults who had been psychologically conditioned to view human relationships as tools for advancement. "Magnus has no idea what he's gotten himself into," Anish said to his contact, studying surveillance footage from outside the London Academy. "These aren't chess training facilities. They're factories for creating human predators." Back in Zagreb, Magnus was being briefed on his role in the graduation ceremony. He would present awards. As Magnus prepared for his trip to London, he began developing his own secret plan. He would use his access to the academy to document the psychological abuse being perpetrated on young students and find a way to expose the entire operation. But Kasparov had anticipated the possibility that Magnus might have reservations about the program. "Magnus, before you leave for London, there's something important you should understand about your new position in our network." Kasparov showed Magnus comprehensive surveillance records documenting every conversation he had had since joining the network, including his private thoughts recorded through advanced monitoring technology. "We know exactly what you're thinking," Kasparov said matter-of-factly. "Your moral concerns, your plans to expose our operations, your hope of somehow saving these children from their training, all perfectly natural reactions." Magnus felt trapped as he realized the sophistication of Kasparov's surveillance capabilities. "You've been monitoring my thoughts?" "We monitor everything," Kasparov confirmed. "But don't worry. Your moral resistance is actually useful to us. It will make your interactions with the students more authentic and therefore more effective for recruitment purposes." The revelation was devastating. Magnus's conscience, which he had hoped to use as a weapon against the network, was actually being exploited as a tool for more effective manipulation of vulnerable children. "The students at the London Academy will trust you precisely because you genuinely care about their well-being," Kasparov explained. "That trust will make them more receptive to the lessons they need to learn about strategic human interaction." Magnus understood that he had become complicit in a system that was using his own moral convictions to harm the very people he wanted to protect. Every attempt to help the children would actually make them more vulnerable to psychological conditioning. "There's one more thing you should know before visiting London," Kasparov said, producing a final document. "We've identified your friend Mr. Giri's current location and activities. His attempts to investigate our operations from the outside have been noted." The document contained detailed surveillance information about Anish's movements, contacts, and investigation into the London Academy. Magnus realized that his former friend was in immediate danger. "What are you going to do to him?" Magnus asked. "Nothing dramatic," Kasparov replied. "But his investigation will encounter certain obstacles. Evidence will disappear. Contacts will become unavailable. He'll gradually understand that opposing our network is futile." Magnus realized that by joining Kasparov's organization, he had not only betrayed his own principles, but also condemned his closest ally to systematic elimination. As Magnus prepared for his trip to the London Academy, he understood that he was about to participate in a ceremony celebrating the psychological destruction of 15 children. And somewhere in London, Anish was working desperately to expose the truth about Kasparov's network, unaware that his every move was being monitored and countered. The war for Chess's soul had reached a point where victory and defeat were becoming indistinguishable, and Magnus Carlsen was no longer certain which